So you're thinking about making a move to Houston, Texas. Well, hold your horses. You know, it's not all rainbows and unicorns in this great state of Texas, especially if you're coming from states like California, New York, Washington State, Michigan. So to get you prepared, we're going to talk about 3 negatives about living in Houston, but we're also going to talk about 3 positives why I think you should move to this wonderful city that I call home. My name is Sam Carratala. My wife Trisha and I, we've been helping families for over 22 years, either relocating to the Houston area or even relocating within the city. So whether you're gonna move in 10 days or 100 days, you can give us a call, shoot us a text, send us an email. You can even schedule a Zoom call. It's all gonna be in the description below. And to get started, we're gonna talk about some of the cons about living in Houston. One of the biggest negatives that we have in Houston is in regards to the weather. That's a question that we get all the time, especially people that are moving from California, where the weather there is great all year round. Well, I can tell you this, in Houston, boy, does it get hot. And when it gets hot, it gets even hotter sometimes. And because we're down here in the southern part of Texas, close to the Gulf of Mexico, it also can get humid. But you know what? To be honest with you, I love this weather, especially in the springtime. It can really be nice, especially from like late February and through April, May. The weather's 75, 80 degrees. So I don't know about you, but I will take the warm, humid weather over the cold weather any day of the year. Now, another concern that people have about Texas is definitely our hurricanes. We are considered one of the most natural disaster prone cities in the country. Hurricane season here runs anywhere from like June 1st through the end of November. Peak season for hurricanes is usually from August to probably mid-September. And the picture that you see here, that's actually from 2017. That was from Hurricane Harvey. It devastated Houston. So there's always a concern for flooding. When it rains, we're always concerned about, will it flood? But one of the things that I always tell my clients when they're buying here is, regardless, even if you're not in an area where it's, known to flood, also keep in mind that in Houston, when you're buying a property, most of the properties, they have a seller's disclosure attached to it. The seller's disclosure will tell you if the property did flood. And so we have other ways to see and confirm if a property flooded or not. We also recommend that not only do you get inspections before you buy a property, but that you also get flood insurance. If you're in an area that didn't flood, runs about $500 a year. So for peace of mind, definitely something that I recommend that all of our buyers, especially if you're relocating to Houston and don't know about it, I definitely recommend it. Another thing is we always want you to have an emergency kit in hand. Once every 5 years, you'll be called to evacuate the city. And so you'll definitely want to have an emergency kit handy so that way you're well prepared. Another con about living in Houston is the property taxes. Property taxes in Houston tend to be a little higher than other parts of the country. Lots of people that are moving here from higher state tax places usually come here and they're shocked because our property taxes are so much higher than theirs are. On average, our property taxes are probably about 2%, some like high ones up to 3.5%, depending on what subdivision you're in or what part of Houston you live in. An example is, personally, we live in Katy. Whenever we moved here, the property taxes for our neighborhood, it was about 3.5%. Our neighborhood started probably about 2010-ish. We moved in 2014. So along with your property tax, there's also a MUD tax. It's called MUD. It's a municipal utility district. And usually that is a fund. It's paid through bonds and investments, and it's created so that it provides water, sewage, drainage services for newer neighborhoods where the Houston city water doesn't reach. And so those bonds are usually collected, and so you're taxed with your property tax. That's part of the tax until those bonds are met. Usually it takes anywhere from 15, 25, sometimes 30 years for some of these tax rates to drop. Like some neighborhoods, Cinco Ranch here in Katy, started in the high, mid threes when they first started, and now their tax rate's down to 2.5, 2.6%. And so that's definitely something to keep in mind. But one of the good things too about our property taxes is that it's based on the appraised value. It's not based on what you paid for the house. So keep in mind that Texas is a non-disclosure state. So you do not have to tell the taxing authorities exactly what you paid for the property. Now, you will get surveys in the mail. You might get calls. You might get people trying to ask you, hey, what did you pay? Can you give us a copy of your closing disclosure? You do not have to share that, okay? If they have that information, then definitely they're going to tax tax you based on that. I always recommend that you always protest your taxes. Contact myself, there's companies that'll do it for a flat fee, and they will fight your taxes every year. Another con about living in Texas is how big it is. As you can see from this map, Houston is huge. You know, we're not waterlocked or landlocked. It just keeps growing and growing out further west, further north, just keeps getting bigger and bigger. And so you do have to drive a lot. That's one of the disadvantages, is that there is a lot of driving in Houston. So it's very important that you get with an agent who knows a different neighborhood. Depending on what your lifestyle is, depending if you're an empty nester or if you have kids that are looking for the best schools, or if you want to be close to work, definitely get with us and we'll be able to point you in the right direction. If this is your first time on the channel and you want to know everything about living and moving to Houston, then please subscribe below. Tap the bell for notifications. That way you're aware and you're notified once we post new videos on our channel. Now we're going to talk about the pluses or the pros about living in this wonderful city. You know, one of the best things that I like about Houston, me and my family like, is we love the rodeo. So if you're ever in town, if you're here anywhere from late February to mid-March, definitely you have to check out the Houston Livestock Rodeo show. It's a wonderful opportunity for you to bring your family out. It's usually done, I think I mentioned it's from late February through early March. Over 2 million people visit the rodeo every year. I mean, they have barbecue cook-offs. They have a huge carnival ride with plenty of rides for your whole family. And then also they have cowboys that are in competition, and you can see bareback riding competitions, bull riding, steer wrestling, tie down roping, barrel racing, so many more activities. We enjoy it. And then plus, every single night there is a concert. So there's some amazing lineup of stars that come. We go every year. We've seen Beyonce, we've seen Kane Brown, Gwen Stefani, George Strait, Kid Rock, Pitbull. I mean, there's so many others. So definitely, if there's one thing that you got to come out and do, is you have to check out the Houston Rodeo. And so along with, because we're so big, another attraction that we have is we have our parks. This park that's pictured here, this is Herman Park. It's a 445 acre park that borders several different neighborhoods inside the city. It's close to universities, institution, the medical center, plenty of green space for you and your family. It also has pavilions, picnics, lakes, gardens, golf course, railroad rides for the kids. You also border the Houston Zoo. So those are all great amenities for Herman Park. One of my favorite parks inside the loop in the city is Memorial Park. So this park is actually 4 miles west of downtown Houston. Over 4 million people visit this park every year. Probably about 10 years ago, I visited that park every day. I lost 60 pounds running in that park. I used to run about 30 miles a week. I loved it. Now I probably go there maybe twice a week. We still love going out there. This rendering that you see here, they're actually making some improvements to the park. They're actually doing a land bridge that's going to cover Memorial Drive. And so if you can tell here, it's going to be just beautiful. They've done so many improvements to the park. So that's actually one of my favorite things to do inside Houston. So definitely check that out. And we didn't even talk about all the other attractions. You have from the Johnson Space Center, you have the Houston Museums, you have all the sporting events, you have Minute Maid Park, BBVA Compass, you have Reliant Park, you have the zoo, you have just so much. It's a plethora of things that you can do in Houston. Another big perks, another pro about living in Houston has to do with lots and lots of jobs. One of the greatest draws of anyone moving to Houston is that there's a plethora of jobs out there. So you can find it from either oil and gas to aerospace, healthcare, technology, manufacturing, medical. So there's so many jobs here in Houston. That's a huge plus about living here. Another pro about living in Houston has to do with the cost of living. Did you know that Houston has one of the lowest cost of livings compared to other cities around the country? If you look on this map, Houston's down here. I mean, we're in the bottom 3 of the most affordable properties. So what does that tell you? I mean, compared to some of these cities, if you look here, New York, San Francisco, LA, some of those cities are like 25, 30% higher cost of living compared to Houston. You know, the cities that are below us, Tampa and St. Louis, both of those cities, even combined, it's about 6 million people. And we're at 7.1 million people in the Houston metro area. So cost of living here is definitely a huge perk. You know, obviously those were three, but another perk and another pro that I love about Houston is the weather. Yes, we talked about how hot it can get. We talked about the hurricanes, but year round we have great weather. So, and because of that, there's so many advantages, so many things you can do outside. There's so many restaurants that have outdoor space. There's so many outdoor events that you can attend to. So that's a huge perk. And then also being named one of the best food cities, we're finally getting recognition for some of the best places to eat in Houston. I don't know about you, but I know we have the best barbecue, we have the best steaks, Tex-Mex, Asian food, Cuban food, and that's just to name a few. And so definitely that's another perk about living in this great city of Houston. So again, guys, were three negatives, three cons about living in Houston, but also I think I said 5 pros about living in this great city. So if you guys have any questions about what we spoke about, or you'd like additional information, or want to schedule a free, no obligation consultation with myself, Trisha, or someone from our team, please feel free to call us, text us, or email us. Until next time, guys, y'all have a great day.